What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. This is going to be kind of a detailed video. I want to start off, though. Jovan, can you simply stop using the St. Jude's intro? More particular, if you are going to continue to talk about issues involving children, could you stop using it for those streams? It just seems so tone deaf. It goes without saying that what happened between Beck and Dakota is a sensitive topic for many of us. Right? I'm speaking into a microphone, right? I would imagine 5 to 10,000 people are going to hear this. I have no way of knowing how some of those people are going to personally have been impacted by the type of things we're going to discuss. And that's why so many of us approach these conversations with respect. It's not something to joke about. It's not something to be happy about. And I'm pretty confident that there's not many creators in all of YouTube, in all of social media, that can go from talking about topics like this to playing an inflatable guitar in less than 30 minutes. But your cover for this is just that. It's all jokes. It's not serious. And we'll get to that in a moment. But did you not just have Yaba call your wife? Did they just not have a discussion about talking about children online? And yet here you are, right? Days later. You're telling people, keep that same energy. Are you not the one that was going after Boogie for the age of his partner? You know, again, people talk about these issues with remorse, right? There is a cadence to someone's voice generally with these topics. Me personally, I like to assume the best, right? I like to assume that everything was resolved, people lived happily ever after, nobody was hurt, but I'm not ignorant enough to know that that's always the case and that's always what happened. Because reality is it's not. So when you sit here and you talk about how, people are foggy when how they respond to these topics, it's odd to me that you are absolutely foggy with the people involved. Right? Today, you're trying to leverage this to one-up a reactor. A month ago, you were willing to go on panel with Boogie and be paid. Overlook it. Because to you, that was you trolling. There's no trolling here, right? These issues clearly impacted Charlie and others in the community. And that brings me to this point right here. This is you documenting yourself being a coward. You are the only creator I have ever seen on this space that documents yourself as a coward. Because you come on this platform and you lie and you degrade. And then you want to climb behind a shield of, quote, I said everything isn't true. But the larger issue is that people take your lies as fact and then run them back to other creators with your false narrative. If you go and you listen to Charlie, which, my God, she did you the favor of all favors by not bringing that to YouTube, you can tell that it impacts her. She is emotional. And you created an entire stream, Jovan, without ever thinking of the impact it would have on her or your viewers. So when you talk about being a hypocrite, everyone is a hypocrite to a degree. You are not immune. I am not immune. Charlie is not immune. But a case can be made that you have been caught in more lies than any creator in this space. You lied about retirement. You lied about investments. You lied about owning boats, dirt bikes, a career in stand-up comedy. And the interesting thing is, none of those lies served any purpose here. Your place in Girl World, your status as a reactor was unchanged. If you had a job, didn't have a job, retired, not retired, owned boats, didn't own boats. But that is Chantal behavior, Jovan. Lying about things that are insignificant that serve you no purpose. So when you come on here and you talk about reactors putting all of their eggs in one basket, we have seen where your eggs are. Because very much You have your eggs in the same girl world basket as anyone else. Moreover, when you talk about how people run channels like a business, it's interesting to me that you show creators here that, if you want to compare everyone as a business, are much more larger and successful than you. So with your own analogy, if you're walking into Charlie Gold's store, you have zero room to tell her how to be successful when Jovan Mart is barely keeping the lights on. With all that said, you went live, you talked about what happened with Beck. And one of the first things you did was try to compare this to Kaia. And Jovan, I'm just going to say it. You have an unhealthy obsession with Kaia. Okay, when you lost your channel, you talked about Kaia. Kaia got to stay, Jovan didn't. This happens with Beck. You talk about Kaia. No one else is comparing Beck's situation to Kaia's other than you. Okay, Kaia came back online, right? If people want to watch Kaia, they can go watch Kaia. Right? The rest of us have simply moved forward and seldom address her. You, Jovan, you are the outlier in all of this. And today you come on here with this entirely false narrative that Charlie was protecting Beck and to a degree enabling her. I went back and I watched Charlie's video. Not once did she say anything even close to that. What I heard Charlie say is that she helps Beck and others when asked. You know, the same way that I helped you with your channel, Jovan. In fact, you could simply say that, much like myself, it would appear that Charlie just pays it forward and tries to help other creators, give them advice. She was flattered people were coming to her asking for help with editing. Charlie advised Beck that it shouldn't be ignored, that it needed to be addressed. You are the one that took this seed and tried to grow it into this massive tree of lies. And what I find so convenient is you just got called out for this very same thing. Right? You inferred that FFG and myself spoke. Never happened. You dreamed up this entire scenario where I spoke with FFG, I never asked about BBJ, and then you tried to connect that to how I was doing a disservice to my viewers, to my audience, by not speaking about BBJ. You then further tried to create this narrative that I had made thousands of dollars talking about BBJ. And I willfully refused to discuss this. Not one of those points, Jovan, had any merit. And this was just days ago. You learned nothing. You have committed to your audience to lie. You have committed to your audience to speculate. You refuse to simply tell the truth. There are tons of creators in this space that do very well for themselves, and they never need to even begin to fabricate to the level you do. Right? Do people have opinions of what Chantal does offline, what Amber does offline? Sure. Do they have opinions of how valid Chantal's relationship or marriage is? Absolutely. But often they are backed up with logical points that most people agree with. You don't do those things. You create these ultra elaborate concepts that usually hinge on some type of underlying communication between creators that would honestly make this near a full-time job. I've never spoken to Charlie. I honestly couldn't tell you what Charlie thinks of me, or even if she cares what I think of her. But when I listened to her today, I heard pain in her voice. What you assume is her not keeping the same energy, I heard as a subdued person. A person that is bothered because of what they went through in the past. What they're still trying to work through. But you want to sit there and project this is just Amber being treated differently. Jovan, you can criticize anyone you want, but you need to learn to criticize people without creating a story to go along with it. And I know that you love to sit there and say that, again, that's what people do to Chantal. They just make up stories. And if you really feel that way, then you know what? Do better. Stop using that as a crutch. Simply because you feel Chantal is married and other creators speculate she isn't, doesn't give you the same right to do these things. Doesn't give you the same leeway to project that FFG and myself or Charlie and Beck all have these relationships, constant communication, talk about things they've never talked about. You know, this is why very rarely do people respond to you, because when it comes to your content, it hinges so much on connecting non-existing dots. I would also offer that you need to learn how to make content without talking about people's families. And I know you love to come on here and say, oh, I don't go real life. Oh, I don't do any of those things. Listen, you might not personally get the information, but you use the information at your disposal to do so. You did it with Yaba. Now you're doing it with Charlie. And again, no one here is above criticism, but we all are above answering to lies. And what you did to Charlie today was a flat-out lie. And no one benefits from this. It doesn't make Charlie look bad. It doesn't make Beck look better or worse. All it does is show you for the person you are. The person that comes online for an hour a day from his backyard of a house that he doesn't own, in front of a green screen, with fake teeth, hiding behind a hat because he's embarrassed of his hairline, to lie about other creators, that most of which are more successful than him. Love to know your thoughts on this. Appreciate you watching it. Be back as soon as I can with more commentary.